Hi everyone, it's Jonathan from Leica with another video on Cyclone 3DR. So here we're going to pick up where we left off from the surface extraction video. And I want to show the Breakline extraction tool. So what I'm going to do first is I want to turn off my ground mesh that we created here. I'll turn off our contours as well, because that doesn't really apply, and I'll turn back on our original surface. Now, just as a recap, the original point cloud that this came from was this point cloud, where we just created a ground surface. What I'd like to do here now is extract some break lines, some feature lines. So you'll see on the Extract tab of Cyclone 3DR, you have a breakline tool here that has two options. You have the option for multiple breaking lines and single breaking line. So we're going to go over both of those because there's some break lines we would want to extract here. Looks like we would probably want to do this stream bed. So that's what I want to focus on as far as being able to pull out the center stream. And I also just want to show how these tools work. So the first thing we'll go over is multiple breaking lines. So we first select our mesh, go up to break lines. We can pull this drop down to get our multiple options here, and then we click multiple breaking lines. Now the options we have over here are smooth versus noisy as far as our mesh quality. Ours is probably about in the middle, maybe a little bit more smooth, probably about where it had it. We don't have too many sharp edges on our mesh. And then we can adjust the relevancy to whether we want all lines or just most relevant. I'm going to leave it to all lines so you can just see how it generates. And then our length of lines is going to filter out lines that are smaller than a meter. So if we get a bunch of small, tiny lines here below a meter, it's going to filter those out. And then we have the option to chain the lines. Whenever you see an option for chaining, what that's going to do is actually connect lines. So if you have a couple of different lines that are very close to each other, their endpoints, it'll chain those together within this distance that we have set. So if I set this distance up to 10, 20 feet, it's going to try to chain lines that endpoints are within 10 or 20 feet of each other. And then we have the option to set for convex or concave. So if we uncheck convex, we're going to not have ridges, and if we uncheck concave, we won't have valleys, basically. So that's the way I like to think about this tool, is it's going to try to create lines on ridges and valleys, high points and low points. So first I'll hit preview so you can see how this works. And you can see here, blue lines are our concave lines and red lines are our convex lines. So we have a lot of, you can see it just went through and generated the lines everywhere that it had any sort of, I would say like a topographic pattern to follow. So you can see we've got blue lines going through our valleys and we've got red lines going across our ridges, kind of like I mentioned. So typically, if you need to produce this sort of, I'll just hit Z to go back to vertical. You need to produce this sort of line work, and you don't want to send a mesh over to a software platform. This can be a quick way to get a topographic surface that's very lightweight. If I say OK on this, we can just turn off our mesh group. And you can see we still have the topography. It's just a lot more light on file size and data density. We sacrifice a little bit of detail in this, but essentially we could send this to someone and then they could regenerate the topography based on these lines as well, or just work with it. So this is the first way that you can go about extracting break lines, but in this case, I think what I would like to do here is just extract the stream bed, for example, and maybe a couple of ridge lines. So what we'll do is we will go to our contour group. I'm going to just control-click these and select them all and then delete them. Notice they go over here to the recycle bin as well. Then we'll turn our ground mesh back on. So the other tool that's underneath of break lines is single breaking line. So at single breaking line, you see this little illustration of a stair where it's putting the line at the tip of the stair tread there. We're going to actually be guiding the software to draw a line in. You'll see over here on the left, it asks us if we want to draw a line regardless of convexity, only concave or only convex, or the shortest distance. and then it's going to ask us if we want to close the line. I don't want to close the line in this case because I don't want it to loop all the way back around to my beginning point. But let's say we were going to draw in the stream here. What we do is we first click a beginning point, so I can see the stream bed starting to form here. And then we keep on giving it seed points as we go. So I'll click again here. And you'll see what the tool does. It actually follows the contour of the surface based on those convex lines and connects from point to point. So if I keep on clicking, you'll see it doesn't follow a straight path directly from point to point. It actually fills in throughout the convex area here. I'll keep clicking through. See, it went around the bend there for me. Now, if you have a situation like this, like I just had, what you can do is you can adjust that point and then add another seed point in. So these nodes can be adjusted on the fly if you get something that happens like I had there where it tracked some contours that went up the hill. And then we'll just keep on drawing our stream. I'm gonna maybe adjust that one a little bit. Looks like the stream actually goes through there. And then we'll get to our endpoint there. So that is how you would use the single Breakline tool to extract a contour without having to hand draw the entire stream bed in. So I'll say, okay, next on that, I'll show you the way the same thing works. We'll find a ridge here just to show you the way the functionality works. So the other thing to keep in mind with this is if I draw on like this ridge line here, for example, you'll see it follows that ridge line. So you have to remember whenever you're clicking your seed points initially, whether you're on a valley or ridge essentially, because it's going to follow one or the other, because if you don't have the option to switch between just concave or just convex here, it's concave or convex. So it's going to follow whichever one is present at the time. So I'm going to say, okay, exit, and I'm just going to delete that line. So there we have it. We've got our polyline that denotes our stream bed. You'll notice sometimes it is following exactly the triangles, so you might want to smooth it out a little bit. So what we can do here is select the polyline, and then we can go to clean. Over here on the clean tab, we have some editing tools. We can go to smooth polyline here, and you'll see this smoothing is really aggressive. You can see where it's going to basically eliminate some of the bend in the stream. So you can adjust the smoothing intensity here. I'm going to go down to maybe 13. That looks pretty good. And if we check the box for project on mesh, it's actually going to project. Let's select our mesh here. It's going to actually project this line after it smooths it onto the mesh, so we actually keep our Z values. So I'll say OK. You see now we have a little bit more of a smooth contour for our stream. So that's how you would extract break lines. I hope you found this helpful. And in the next one, we're going to go over how to do cross sections along this stream. Thanks.